will speak about schematic thinking in endgames. It is a very important principle, therefore a good chess player should use it in his games. So, in this position, White needs to formulate a plan in order not to lose whatever winning chances he retains here. The correct plan runs as follows. Get the pawn to h4 and the knight to f4. Together these form of a barrier against the black king. Then the white king will be free. Meanwhile the white bishop will eye the c-pawn, and black will not be able to do anything constructive on the light squares. White now starts his maneuvering. King h4, king h2, bishop d5, knight d3. Phase 1 is in action. White is on his way to promoting his pawn. Bishop c4. Black has no illusions about blockading the h-pawn. After bishop c6, knight e5, bishop e4, bishop c1, bishop b7, knight g6, check, king h5, knight f4, check, king h4, bishop b2. The threat of bishop f6 mate forces black to retreat with king g5, when white achieves the first part of his plan with king g3 and h4. Since white's plan can only be postponed, not prevented, black is not interested in making his grandmaster colleague perform many operations in order to achieve his initial objectives. This is a matter of taste. Some strong players would argue that you should make your opponent fight for every inch to put him under as much stress as possible, while others would argue that you should not waste your own energy on delaying the critical position, which will arise all the same. Time remaining on the clock and what time control the game is played under obviously also play a part here. But as soon as there is the slightest possibility of resistance, where the opponent will have to work to find a plan for a certain move, he should always be given the chance to mess up. So, in the game was played bishop c4, knight e1, bishop b3, knight f3 check, king h5, king g3, bishop d5, knight d4, bishop e4, bishop c1, bishop d3, knight e6, bishop c4, knight f4 check, king g5, h4 check, king h6. So, the first part of the plan has been achieved. White has prevented all kinds of counterplay against the h-pawn and can now use his king actively rather than defensively. So, what is White's winning plan? Let us have a fresh look at the position. The knight is excellently placed on f4. The bishop hangs back, keeping an eye on the c-pawn, while the h-pawn is ready to march on once the signal is given. This could be the black king trying to get into the game again somehow. The black bishop cannot counter White's ambitions, as these can be pursued only on the dark squares. However, black does not necessarily need active counterplay. If White advances the h-pawn, it will be difficult to defend. For instance, h5, which is a mistake. Black will instantly play king g5, good move, when there is no adequate defense against bishop f7 and bishop takes h5, with an immediate draw. White could just sit tight and move his king around, hoping something turns up before the game is drawn up under the 50-move rule. But what would this be? The concept of do not hurry and the prevention of counterplay. cannot really be attributed to this position. Black will not feel any extra pressure if white does nothing or takes things slowly. All he can do is move the bishop aimlessly around anyway. So, what does white want to achieve? Basically, he wants to break the blockade over h-pawn, but how? If the knight moves away, then the black king comes to h5. If the move gets as far as f8, then the white king would have to stay behind the c-pawn, and it will be difficult to get the h-pawn to the a rank. Still, this plan should not be abandoned immediately, since it is currently the best one we have found. It is here that schematic thinking once again comes in handy. If a white king was on h8, then bishop g7 would be made. As black can do nothing, white wins by simply moving his king to h8. So, in the game was played bishop b2, bishop a6, king f2, bishop b7, king e3, bishop c6, king d4, bishop b7, king e5, bishop c8. If black does not protect his f-pawn, for example electing to keep the white king out of g8 by placing the bishop on the diagonal a2, g8, then white wins simply by taking the f-pawn, returning for the c-pawn and then promoting his h-pawn, having the right colored bishop for the corner. So, king f6, bishop d7, king f7, bishop c8. Here, king h7 was tried, again with the intention of preventing the king from going to h8. But after knight h5, king h6, knight f6, f4, bishop c1, black cannot save the game anyway. Black might still his opponent cause some practical difficulties with bishop e8 check, knight e8, king h5, bishop f4, king takes h4, knight f6, when white has to prove that he can mate with knight and bishop against king. Of course, there would be not insecurity from Danielson. His hand would move the pieces without thinking, but against a club player, this would be a worthwhile try. So, in game was played bishop c8, king g8, bishop e6 check, and king h8. Black has no defense against bishop g7 with mate on the next move. So, this was the principal schematic thinking. Thank you for watching. Put like if video is informing for you, share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. Good luck.